Super Rugby Friday games are done. Crusaders over the Blues and Rebels over the Tars is the way things finished. Both these games were kind of ugly at times. The handling for the Blues and Crusaders game was not that slick by either side, but particularly the Blues, which is strange because it was perfect weather. And the Rebels Waratahs was really quite wet, very, very rainy, which I guess is a beautiful thing. In Australia with all of the bushfires that have happened this year. But yeah, in terms of the product on the field, at times it did leave a wee bit to be desired. But start with the first one, the Blues against the Crusaders. Now, I was supposed to go to this game. I didn't end up going. My mum, who was going to help out with the kids, ended up getting tickets to go see Romeo and Juliet. And as you know, that's one of Shakespeare's famous tragedies. If you're a Blues fan, you're well used to seeing the tragedy that is the Blues, and this was another one, yesterday evening. 25 points to 8. The Blues went in front early through a Tuipulotu try, but the Crusaders had a penalty, a try to George Bridge, another penalty. The Blues did get one penalty in the second half, and then tries to Mo'unga and Goodhue. They had one chalked off at the end to Will Jordan for being about a mile offside, but... yeah, man. The Crusaders just way, way too clinical for the Blues. The Blues handling errors were terrible. Their line-out was terrible. And, yeah, the Blues just silly errors, man. It's really painful. Like, I was just shaking my head. I couldn't bring myself to do this review last night after the game. So, I needed a break, a sleep, a detox. I was pretty grumpy. I don't know why. Like, I should have seen this coming. But anyway... I will say Perofeta with the ball in hand actually looks alright as an attacking threat. He's quite a deceptive little runner. Some of the kicks he puts through are okay. His kicking from hand in terms of for touch is not the best, but Plummer wasn't the best there either because he managed to kick one ball in the second half like further back than he needed. Like he was kicking for the corner and he was trying to gain meters, ended up losing meters, ended up kicking it almost backwards. He kicked one dead later when he was trying to chalk off a few extra meters. Perofeta kicked a kickoff restart out on the full. It's just like basic stuff. That's not even the opposition. That's one of the moments in rugby where it's like golf, right? It's a single process. There's no interference from anybody else. Managed to stuff it up multiple times. Concerningly, I guess, for the Crusaders, Jaeger went off pretty early and he looked pretty sore, and Goodhue went off, this Josh Goodhue, for the Blues, both on about 7 minutes, so that was pretty unfortunate. The Blues defense kind of held well early after the Crusaders turned down 3. They lost the ball in the maul, and then the next chance they got a penalty, they didn't turn down the 3, they went for the 3, so I guess that was a slight credit to the Blues that they thought they'll take the points. But to be honest, the Crusaders, they could have scored more. They had one try where Reese had a big line break. It looked like they had a try for all money, but the Blues managed to scramble and stop it. There were handbags towards the end. I guess the Blues guys were frustrated. Like it's fitting that the game finished with a Blues knock on, because that's just what they do, man. 10 phases at one point they attacked the Crusaders when they were already looking pretty dead and buried, and they knocked it on. It was just kind of the story of the day. The crowd looked alright. I wouldn't say it was an outstanding one for what's traditionally a pretty big game, but it was decent enough. Eden Park always makes the Super Rugby crowds look pretty small. Main notes from me: Crusaders, they took their chances, solid defense, good set piece. Just doing what the Crusaders do. The Blues, their line-out was operating at 60%. The Crusaders were 100. Handling errors, Blues 11, Crusaders 7. So significantly more. The Blues kicking for touch and whatnot was just poor. Stats of the game: run meters 396 to 280. That's in favor of the Blues because the Blues had 58% possession and 62% territory. But it's meaningless when you can't take your chances. You can't unlock that defense. Like, the Crusaders' defense rarely looked troubled, man. They had the Blues pretty well contained. Penalties conceded 13 to the Blues, 14 to the Crusaders. So that's another thing that made the game a bit ugly. Like, it was just so start-stop. Tackling percentages, both teams are pretty high in the 80s. Blues made 82, Crusaders made 156. So their defense was solid, man. The Crusaders were being asked to make some tackles, but like I said, I don't think they were really ever like in that much trouble. So, I mean, Perifeta had 7 defenders beaten for all the flaws in his game, including his goal kicking and apparently restarts and whatnot. He is able to unlock a defense unlike some other players. 7 defenders beaten was one of I think the highest of the game. Christie for the Crusaders had 21 out of 22 tackles, but yeah. Probably pretty glad I missed that one in terms of going to the game in person. Crusaders too good. Same old for the Blues. The next one was the Rebels against the Tars. Both of these teams going into this one having not won a game. Pretty important that they got their seasons off to a final, like, round 3 beginning. And it's the Rebels who got it done, man. 24 points to 10. They only really sealed the deal towards the end of this game. I felt like the Rebels at one point were going to lose it because they'd had so much pressure on, and they actually went behind, having not been able to convert at the end of the first half. But fortunately for them, they didn't. So Rebels penalty early, 3-0. Waratahs equal it up. First try of the game is Korobedi on 14 minutes. And they almost had another one through the scrum half Lawrence, who was probably one of the best players on the field, man. He had a really good game, but his foot was in touch. Meeks looked to have a try, but they ruled there was obstruction. So this is what I'm talking about. The Rebels with at least 10, or maybe if you can look at it as 14 points that they didn't get on the board in that first half. And then the second half, it was Harry Johnson-Holmes who got the try to put the Tars in front, 10 points to 8. And that's what I was talking about, man. Like, the Rebels are knocking on the door, can't convert, and then the Waratahs second half finally get down the other end of the field after being camped in their own half and get points immediately. So you're thinking, Waratahs are going to get this. But the Waratahs, I guess being the Waratahs, man, immediately from the kickoff concede a penalty. So Tamua kicks it, the Rebels go immediately back in front. The Waratahs lead lasts all of a minute or two. So it's 11 points to 10. Another penalty for the Rebels, 14-10. And then 2 late tries to Callaway. Both the conversions missed. So 24-10 is the way it finished. So I think the Rebels probably won't be happy with the performance. It was very wet, so the handling errors were kind of to be expected. 11 to the Rebels and 11 to the Waratahs. And it was wet. Remember, the Blues had 11 in bone-dry conditions. So, yeah, a lot of handling errors. Penalties conceded was 5 to 11, so not as many as that previous game. But, yeah, the Rebels were almost guilty of letting this one slip away. I thought overall they were the better team. The Waratahs looked to do one of those ones where they take their chance and then sneak away, but then they ended up blowing it as well. I did make a note at one point that neither bloody team wants to win this game. Yeah. Because I was getting frustrated, man. They were both, like, there were some big hits. They were intercepting each other, but nobody was taking their chances until finally the Rebels got those last one. 17 phases, I think, the Rebels went before they finally scored the first of Callaway's tries, which was, I guess, finally reward for putting in that effort. Like, you can go 17 phases in that weather. That's a pretty good achievement. You deserve a try, and they didn't blow it. Tamua at one point had a great kick, like 22-22. So the final kind of 10 minutes, the Rebels just finally clicked and put it into gear and managed to walk away with what looks like on paper a pretty comfortable win, but it wasn't all good. I mean, Hodge went off injured on about 20 minutes for the Rebels, which is probably a bit concerning. The ref got taken out at one point, and he managed to power through the game. I think it was Simmons who put him on his backside. It wasn't the best watch, but again, it was the weather that was part of it. I did think the Rebels scrum half Lawrence was very good. He had 5 defenders beaten, a try assist. He was a key man in their performance for the Waratahs. Like Hooper had 12 out of 14 tackles, but wasn't doing much with ball in hand. Beale was kind of either looking to unlock things or looking to maybe stuff things up, because I think he pretty much knocked it on in his own end goal at one point. The Rebels, I think it was Maddox, had to take it back over his own try line to start it down because they were under pressure. So, yeah. I guess Callaway is probably pretty happy to score against his old team. Final stats, like I mentioned, the knock-ons were even 11-11. Run meters 263 to 223, so that's actually pretty even. Position and territory 53% and 56% to the Rebels, so it doesn't look like it felt watching that first half. But I guess in the end, Rebels just too good. Penalties 5 to the Rebels, 11 to the Tars. So it's probably another area which was pretty costly. It's a little bit concerning for the Tars, because after that first game against the Crusaders, I actually thought they looked all right and they were getting some structures. But even though they ended up getting pretty comfortably beaten, but that happens against the Crusaders. But the last couple of games, they've looked a bit all at sea. So we'll see if things kind of start to click together. The Rebels will certainly need to keep improving, because they were good for patches of the game, but really lacking some kind of clinical edge for much of the game as well. That's it. That's the two Friday games. We've got some games coming today. It's just Saturday. Starting with the Sunwolves Chiefs. That should be a bit of an interesting one. You guys let me know your thoughts on these games. How did you think they went? I thought the crowd for that game was actually not too bad, given it was raining. Like, a lot of people weren't sitting in the front rows, they were sitting back a bit. I'm not sure what the numbers were, but I don't think it was terrible, given that there was the two kind of bottom coming in teams playing each other. I thought it was decent. So yeah. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.